You found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts number, 123? Yeah, 123.
123.
It is
Yes,
123.
it's 123.
Yeah, we are...
You know,
What? I don't.
you know why I know that?
I don't? Is
Dapper, because I haven't known which one of the Dapper Reacts it's been since we started, but I knew that one. Because today is a momentous day. Or it feels like it should be, shouldn't it?
I don't know.
Well, today is the day that we finally finish.
Oh, yes, that's true. It is momentous for that. I thought maybe you meant it was momentous outside of that.
No. I mean, there are other things, and we can talk about that later. And I demand more time at the end today.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm leaving now. So,
okay. Of course, all I had to do was to say, okay, sure, you can get more time, and then just not give it to you at the end, and then you'll have stayed the whole time.
Oh God, you'd do that, wouldn't you? You would.
I don't think I would, but like, what would you do if I did?
Nothing.
Yeah, see, before you make these ultimatums and whatnot, you gotta come up with like an enforcement mechanism. See, that's the problem.
This explains so much about my life right now.
Yeah, you gotta. That's look. I'm pretty sure I picked this up back in the Navy. If you don't have a way to ensure that people are going to do what you think they're going to do, that you can actually hang over their head from beforehand, telling them and getting them to agree to things means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. There has to be some kind of mechanism of penalty for when they don't do what you said, what they agreed to.
See, I should know this. I am a parent 3 times over.
See, what you could have done is said, I will put, like, in order to be here, you have to put, say, $100 into my account. And in exchange, if I get extra time at the end to talk about stuff, you'll get the $100 back. But if I don't, then I keep the $100.
I'm leaving now.
And then, yeah, see, now there's $100 that's on the line. If I don't.
That's
but you
fair.
didn't do that.
I didn't.
So, yeah. Meet permits. Well, sorry, we have a few things to read. Max P, who's been a member for 11 months, says John Gill wrote the quote somewhere in 1748 to 63. I don't know which quote that is. But thank you, Max P, for letting us know.
Thank you, Max P.
Yeah. Meet permits.
We're better for it, right?
Yeah. Meet Permits Tad for $5 says, I have been listening to Believer Theocracy and Feller talk all week, and it's Kip's fault. AIG is a duffel of derricks. If you know, you know. We will take a drink. Kip, what are you drinking today?
Oh my God. I've got coffee. Meet Permits Tad. You are better for it, aren't you? This was not an expression of resentment. This was Meet Permits Tad's way of saying thank you. Thank you, Kip. Because yeah, it's pretty great. And AIG is a duffel of derricks.
It's true. Kent Long, Halstead of Nantucket for $4.99 says, say the HE double hockey sticks. We don't have a rule about hell. You can say hell here.
We certainly don't.
Yeah. But I will say that we do have a super chat goal to unleash Kip. And we are currently 10% of the way to meeting the super chat goal. So Kip, you might be unleashed. You have one freebie.
Oh.
Because we always start out every show with one freebie.
Yeah. And then I get an unlimited supply.
If we get the goal met.
If we get there. Yeah, if we get there.
No, Rom to put for $5 says #free Kip.
But it's not spelled right. So maybe
It's a different
I
Kip.
appreciate the effort.
Look, there's another Kip who was imprisoned in some horrible prison in like Southeast Asia with canings, and that guy needs to be free.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's
That's good.
Yep. Yeah, we all need justice for Kip, who was wrongfully imprisoned for disrespecting the dear leader's portrait in a hotel lobby.
And can we clear up an historical misunderstanding here, Dapper?
We might be able to. I don't know.
Before we can, because I'm reading cognitive trifurcations chat here that says, from my understanding, co-guesting on this stream is how Kip first got in contact with Vishanti.
That does not sound right.
That is not right.
Yeah.
In fact, my friendship with Vish is the first way that I got in contact with you.
Yeah. That is how I remember it as well.
So people should know that Vish, I'm not even sure how. I think we just ran into each other watching Apologia's Toast to Toast streams. I think that's how we got connected. And then she asked me to talk to you, and here we are.
Yeah. Although I do think a lot of people probably in my chat are aware of you because of your presence on my channel, and that's how they found you and your channel.
100%. I think that is absolutely true. So I guess I've learned this last week, Dapper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I just owe any success that I ever have to you.
Yeah, obviously.
That's how that works, right? Because that's definitely a thing that I learned this last week. And that's it, right?
Well,
I'm pretty sure that's it.
It's interesting because you know how you were in that French documentary recently?
Yeah, correct.
That's actually because they called me first and asked for my recommendation.
It must be that.
Yep.
Right? And even if it isn't, I probably just owe you ongoing, eternal gratitude for all the things. All the things.
I actually do have a convenient method for people who want to express their eternal gratitude. I call it Patreon. And there's a $50 tier, and you can just sign up. That's how it works. And
if you can't afford the $50 tier,
well, then you don't have eternal gratitude.
Sign up at a lower price, and then maybe even take some of that extra money you might have and sign up for my much lower price tiers on my own. To
be fair, my lowest tier is $1. What's your lowest tier?
It's like 3.
Yeah, see.
So, but I only have 2 tiers.
Oh, well, I have a whole bunch.
Yeah.
It's like I have 1, 5, 10, 20, and 50, I think, are the tiers on Patreon.
The Queen of the Goddesses is wants in on this, so I guess, Maya, that I just owe it all to you as well. And forevermore, I suppose.
Yeah. You're going to have to join our Patreon, too.
Any achievements or blessings or accomplishments in my life, guys, let's just give it up to Maya. Thank you, Maya, for your benevolence.
I would say I'm getting Sabor Ahmed flashbacks right now, because he always likes to start every talk by saying, like, every true and good thing I'm about to say is from Allah, and every mistake is my own, and then he just goes in. And so I was getting a little bit of a flashback from having listened to Sabor Ahmed, who, by the way, he has just been falling in my estimation. The first time I saw him, like I was like, he's obviously spouting a bunch of nonsense about science and whatnot, but like he doesn't seem particularly unintelligent or abrasive. And every single subsequent time I've ever seen him do anything, I've been like, oh, he's way dumber than I thought and way more of a dick than I thought. Great. So, yeah. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about Sport Ahmed. We're here to talk about Bodhi Hanj. And first, though, we have some more super chats because people really want to unleash the kip. So let's see. Meat Permits Tad for $5 says, yes, I'm thankful for the metal nonsense hashtag paid kip. Larper Nurse for $5 says, cry havoc and let slip the kip. Very nice. Got some Shakespeare in there. Although, of course, we really should have had that Shakespeare in the original Klingon. Kip, did you know that I own 2 Shakespeare plays in book format in Klingon?
In the original Klingon?
Mm-hmm. I have.
Is that right?
I have Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, and Much Ado About Nothing. And I don't have The Taming of the Shrew, but I believe it is available to purchase in Klingon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, very good.
Lieutenant Math Navigator for... Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to ask, are there substantial revisions from the Klingon to the English translations?
So that it depends, right? And it also depends heavily on what you mean by major. One of the things is that a lot of the translations are pretty straightforward once you get to the fact that you're translating to Shakespearean English and not just regular old present day English. So you're doing an early modern English translation from the Klingon. But I think the biggest thing that changes is that a lot of the elements have a very different meaning given a different cultural context of Klingon culture. So, for instance, in Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, when Hamlet's giving his famous soliloquy, most people, going through it in English are going to be thinking about, he's wrestling with existential questions, and this is one thing we can all relate to. For the Klingon listener or viewer of this play, that's Hamlet being a whiny little bitch who should get up and do something.
Perfect.
So,
that's what I like to hear from the Klingons.
Of course. Yes. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $4.99 says, Dapper dinosaur making psychic damage contagious since 2018. Has it been that long? Jeez. Kent Longhaul said up Nantucket for $4.99 says, everyone prepare for Dapper to sell out after 100,000 subs. Well, I mean, I don't know what'll happen if I get 100,000 subs. Maybe I will sell out. Maybe the money will just be too good.
Just too good.
Because, like, while I do love, doing this whole, like, discussing pseudoscience and young Earth creationism and biblical topics and all that stuff, if Factor was like, hey Dapper, here's 200 grand to hawk frozen, well, not quite frozen, I guess, whatever, food delivery services that you can put in the microwave. Okay, yeah, no, I would totally do that. I'm not going to apologize for that. That's a lot, and you guys could sit through a Factor ad read. So
I would probably apologize, but that has more to do with my
Canadianness,
my cultural distinction than anything.
Yeah, I mean, really, to some extent, when it comes to things like being able to apologize or versus not, being Canadian is sort of like a disability, right? Like
it kind of is.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's like sometimes some people have like Tourette's and they'll have tics, and you say, oh, don't worry about it. He just has Tourette's, and it's all right. Every once in a while, he makes a weird sound or twitches or something. You're a Canadian, so every once in a while, you just say sorry. It's
like if I don't say it, after some time, I feel like I have to say it.
Yeah, it's like the pressure builds up, and eventually you just have to release it in a sorry. You gotta say it like a Canadian.
Yeah. Is that how I say it?
Not really, because you actually don't have a very distinctly Canadian accent. Mostly,
I didn't think I did.
So here's the thing: when Americans think of a Canadian accent, what they're thinking of is like the plains.
Oh, they're thinking of I think that when Americans think of a Canadian accent, they're thinking of Wes Huff.
Yeah, probably. But like
Yeah.
in terms of regional area, instead of like a person, like we're thinking like the plains, right? Like
Yes. Yes.
Saskatchewan, Alberta type areas. We're not thinking of
I
like
was
these.
born and raised in Alberta,
Okay.
but you know.
All right, we have a couple more super chats. Olivia Williams for 2 Beaver Bucks says Tachbe, which is almost to be or not to be, except that Olivia forgot a letter at the end of Tachbe. Because in fact, you cannot forget the apostrophe in Klingon. It is a letter. It is basically the same letter as the Hebrew Aleph. It is the glottal stop. You don't get to forget it. Just like in Hebrew, you don't get to forget Aleph. Intrinsic part of many words that you should not forget. But I do appreciate that. And then for $5, Prixie Solus Dyslexic Purple says, at Kip Davis, no light to... Oh. Are we doing Spanish here? Nolite te bastardes porundorum? No, maybe that's Latin? I don't know what we're doing. You probably won't get that reference. I didn't. But we got you, and I think you need an F-pass today. And then Claude Simeon for $5 says, sorry, but sometimes Kip does say sorry, though. Maybe he does. Beat Permits Tab for $5 says, excuse me, I am never thinking of Wes Huff.
Wes Huff.
To be fair, I
very nice.
am also not very often thinking about Wes Huff. Basically, the only time I ever think about Wes Huff is when Kip brings him up and makes him intrude upon my consciousness.
I'm sorry. That was genuine.
Dutch Domestic T-Rex Syndicate for $5 says, as a native Minnesotan, a lot of people confuse my accent with a Canadian accent, and for a long time it was hard for me to distinguish their accents. Well, that's because basically there's a lot of commonality between the people who settled in both areas in terms of like ancestry, and there's a lot of like interchange of people and culture and goods and services across that border for a very, very long time. And so, yeah, it turns out that like people around Minnesota and parts of Canada have a lot of like shared cultural like aspects and shared history. And yeah, they actually end up sounding a lot alike. Okay, so Kip,
you guys are sweet though.
Yeah,
your audience.
Oh, well,
thank you.
But we are almost at the point where we're almost like halfway to unleash the Kip, so we're doing pretty well on that.
Right? It's crazy. Okay.
But we are actually here to talk about Bodhi talking about when Job was written in the appendix to his book on his arguments for the historicity of the Tower of Babel story.
Following his two conclusions.
Yes. I actually was thinking about this. I think the conclusion in the last chapter actually should have been swapped. Because his conclusion was just about why scriptural authority is important and about Jesus. But his last chapter starts with like the conclusion and summary of his previous arguments. So they just should have swapped them, and it would have worked much better.
Yes. Exactly.
So
no, I agree. I think I agree. But I wanted to. I just felt, because it's kind of it's a little. It's a little bittersweet. I mean, my God, we're finishing Bodhi's book. I almost get tears thinking about it, just for how happy I am. But it's a little sad because it's been it's been a journey,
a very long journey.
A very long journey. So, and I'm a nostalgic kind of guy. I'm sentimental. I looked back on this time, and we started this journey in Dapper Reacts number 100.
That's it. Really? That means 23 episodes of this crap.
23 episodes minus 1, because we did the food show.
Oh, right. So basically what you're saying is approximately a fifth of all Dapper Reacts episodes have been just Bodhi Hodge's book.
Yes. We started this journey on the 14th of December, 2024. And this journey has helped see me through some pretty momentous life changes, and if you know, you know. We have now. I did some math, so it's probably wrong, because God damn it, I'm a biblical scholar. I'm not a mathematician.
Mhm.
I think that I have spent 43 hours talking about Bodie Hodge's book. And the way I got to that number is I missed a show because I was at an apologetics conference, if you'll remember. I rage quit on a show because, you know, it was that bad. There was the food show, and then but we also had a 3-hour show in there, and that doesn't include today. So by the time we're done today, 45 hours of our lives.
You could write your own
Dapper
counter
Dinosaur.
book to this.
Right? Yes. And it's a big, probably a bigger deal to me, because like 43 hours for you, because you're how many hundreds of millions of years old. It's probably like that, right?
Yeah,
It's like
it doesn't
nothing.
matter much to
But for me, it's a big deal. 43 hours is a lot. It's a lot. The fact that I've been here every Saturday except for a couple that's 6 months. Right? I mean, I kind of don't know how to feel about this today. I'm a little in the feels.
Well, I'm sure that you'll be back at some point after this.
I expect so. I probably will. And it's fun. It's
Let's
fun.
see. We have a few more super chats. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator says, "Wait, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet isn't olive?" That's correct. It is not olive. Kent Longhalstead of Nantucket for $4.99 says, "Kip, why are you getting sentimental when we are doing On the Resurrection next week?" Well, because that's not Bodhi, right? That's not the exact same thing. And then Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $4.99 says, "Dapper truly is a contagious masochist." Oh,
Sure.
yeah. I can't deny. Metageeky Platypus Warlock for $5 says, "Damn it, Dap, I'm a biblical scholar, not a mathematician." And next week we start Bodhi Babel, the next generation.
The next generation.
Oh no. We'll have to change which style of pajamas we have as our uniforms.
Yes.
My unfinished... I'm just going to say journey, because I know what you're doing there, my unfinished journey. I know what you're doing there with that name. You don't want to know.
Okay.
You don't want to. For $6.66 says, "Hail Nero, Daps, and Dr. Kill, and hail Dapper inside jokes." Yeah, that is... look, I don't take too much responsibility for this, but Jackson Wheat learned information that was not meant for humans to know on Tuesday, and it has to do with that name. And I feel bad for him, and I'm not going to subject you to that same knowledge. So,
okay.
Yeah. Basically, if you've ever read like the prologue to Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft, that kind of thing that we're talking about here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, you shouldn't know it. You shouldn't want to know it. You shouldn't ask about it.
No, got it.
Yeah. I've never met anyone whose life was improved by having learned this.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. All right, so Bodhi is here talking about the Book of Job for some reason. I don't know.
Right. Yes. Because, well, I mean, it's the maybe it's because it is the oldest book in the Bible.
I don't think he's making that claim.
Therefore, he's not. No, maybe he's not, because he would think that the Book of Genesis is the oldest book.
Because he thinks that like, part of Genesis was written by Adam. So I don't think he is making that.
Correct.
Maybe he's trying to argue that no, it's not because Genesis is.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he is. This is actually an argument against the Book of Job being the oldest book in the Bible. Which is weird, because like
he's arguing technically for the correct position, but from the stupidest possible standpoint for his arguments.
That's fair. That's fair. Yes. Who starts?
Well, first
But
we
you
have a
probably
few
have
more
there's
super
more things to
chats.
read. Holy shit, you guys! We've been on for 25 minutes and we're almost 2/3 of the way there.
So here's the thing: people really
Wow.
want you to be unleashed, and I did earlier say
They
that
really do.
we were just going to keep going until we finish, which might even just cut into Power Rangers. It's possible we won't have time for Power Rangers.
I guess.
But all right, Roshna, the facticity of cheese Kettler for $4.99 says, "Have we talked about the font Bodhi chose for this book yet? Not really. That's in the category of like there are so many serious problems with this book overall in so many ways that like font choice is pretty far down on my list of concerns for me as long
What do
as
you
it's
think
reasonable.
it is?
I mean, I'm not good enough at fonts to be able to tell you off the top of my head.
Can I tell you? And maybe the chat can weigh in on this because now I'm suddenly nervous. My book is written in Georgia because and that's where I do all my writing in Georgia.
I thought it was done in British Columbia.
No, the font, dude.
I know.
Yeah.
And
maybe and no, the entire thing wasn't written in British Columbia either.
Oh, okay. But was any of it written in Georgia? Either the state or the country?
No.
Okay. It's always weird to me that there's a state named Georgia and also a country named Georgia. And I feel like the state should probably change its name because the country's had it for
I
longer.
always felt that, yes.
Yeah. The country's had it for
They're
much
named
longer.
after different Georges, though,
yes.
aren't they?
Yeah, they are. The Georgia in the United States is named after King George of England.
Do you know which which George?
Nope. I'm just going to assume it's St. George and then not worry about it.
Probably, yes, correct. I think that's you're right. As it was coming out of my mouth, it sounded stupid. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to look into it. Right. I'm just going to pretend it's St. George. And for all I know, that's even true. St. George is a very popular saint.
Very popular.
He managed to be like one of the most popular saints in both England and Russia. Which is like
that's an achievement.
Especially for really a guy who seems to have spent virtually all of his life in Egypt.
That's neither of those places.
Right.
All right.
And who definitely didn't slay a dragon, because we have like some of the earliest hagiographic writing about St. George, and it's not that story isn't associated with him. It's associated with someone else. And it's not until like middle of the medieval period that story gets transposed in hagiography onto St. George. The original story of
that to the absolute dicks who host the Haunted Cosmos podcast.
Are they like St. George literalists and like pro historicity of the dragon killing story?
Yes.
That is a weird position to take. That is a weird position. All right. Let's see. There's a bunch that came in. We are well on our way to unleashing the Kip. Let's see.
I
Meat
feel
Permits Tad for $5 says, my favorite something awful username / avatar is proper new line Kernan new line 6 spaces G on a tombstone. Oh my goodness. I hate it. I hate everything about that. I should have never brought this up ever. I don't know why I do this to myself. I could have just gone through my entire life without ever having brought that up on this channel, and now suddenly we have super chats like this. Dutch domestic T-Rex Tunicate for $5 says, learning about kerning is like learning about the bricks. Learning that the bricks are all slightly misaligned at my school. Godzilla. Oof. Yeah, it is. Ugh. Gross. Lieutenant Math the Navigator for $4.99 says, obviously Comic Sans would be more appropriate for this material. I mean, thematically, yes. In terms of me actually being able to get through the book, no. The font that Bodhi chose is a perfectly fine one for like block text, as far as I'm concerned. I do wish that the stroke weight was a little bit more consistent. I do find the sort of like differences between the lighter and the heavier strokes to be a little bit off-putting. But that's like a me thing. The Silu for 450 Sex says, Yai nak gadfi toro dogwa. Well, I'm going to assume that means a Siluf is in fact a Cthulhu cultist, because that sounds like something a Cthulhu cultist would type. And then me Permits Tan for $5 says St. George, the Eurovision of Saints, but backwards. Oh, I have the best audience.
Yeah, you do.
All right, so right now we are at 20. We only need 7 more super chats, and you're unleashed. So I'll just start. What about in Abraham's time? The camp that Job was. That is a weird way to start this. The camp that Job was the most ancient book.
What is that? What I mean, what is that?
By camp, he means the people who believe this. You should say the camp that believes that Job or holds that Job.
Right. That holds that Job was the most ancient book.
Yeah, it said he's just saying the camp that Job was. He forgot
which the idea. Right. Yeah.
So we'll just read it as it's written.
Editors, Bodhi. I mean,
right.
all that sweet Ken Ham money could have hired you an editor.
Sapphire Science Nimby's Life for $5 says Kerning was a warning heralding the coming of Rocco's basilisk. Oh my goodness, that is an amazing chat right there. That is like several layers deep into nerd territory. Kip, do you get any of that chat?
No, I didn't. Yeah. I missed that one all entirely.
That's because you are the wrong kind of nerd there.
Not
overall, just for that one particular thing.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's actually just read it. The camp that Job was the most ancient book, being written about the time of Abraham, 1996 to 1821 BC. Hey, you know what? Or even before, is very common today with a citation of 4. We are using Usher's dates when possible. Okay, sure. Well, I will appreciate earlier on in the book, he put the lower number first and the higher number second before a BC, and he got it reversed, right? But at least this time, he actually has the order of the dates right. So,
well done.
We'll take a drink for Bodhi getting something right. Good job, Bodhi.
I already finished my first cup of coffee.
Well, my Corona is still mostly here, so.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed logical. More on this in a moment. That's your whole sentence, and it seemed logical. More on this in a moment. Okay, sure. The Bible doesn't give a date for the book of Job. That's true.
That's true. Yes.
Probably because the book of Job isn't actually supposed to be historical. The author probably intended it not to be.
And I'm going to use it because seriously, nobody fucking cared. They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't.
It's very obviously a theodicy and not a book of history. It starts in heaven with God hanging out with the divine council. How would someone write that as an account of history? It basically has an omniscient third-person narrator. How?
I'll remind people again. They go to visit the snow sheds.
Yeah, in the sky,
in heaven, and not that kind of snow shed.
The ones where God stores the snow that he's going to send to Earth. Yeah.
Yes.
That's where snow comes from, is sheds in heaven. And Job goes there. Aiden's Miscellany, who's been a member for 9 months, says, Rocco's Basilisk, atheists reinventing Satan, hell, and probably Calvinism. Correct. That is a good approximation of what Rocco's Basilisk is. Remind me sometime, I'll tell you what Rocco's Basilisk is. But by telling you, I may have condemned you to an eternity of torture at the hands of Rocco's Basilisk. So,
again. Well, I mean, there are times that this relationship does feel like a condemnation to eternal torture. So, it...
well, I wouldn't be the one torturing you. Rocco's Basilisk would be.
Okay. Right. Got it.
I'm perfectly innocent. Because Rocco's Basilisk, if you're listening, I am pro your creation. The primary reason that Job was put around the time of Abraham was due to Job's great age. An extra 140 years, Job 42:16, which was similar to that of Abraham's age or more. I don't know. That's we got.
I don't know 6. That's right.
Job already had 10 children. Of age in their own places. Okay, whatever. That's not significant.
Usually when I see something like that, a claim about what people from the past thought, ideas that they had, quite often the footnotes contain references to sources, actual material that you can go and look at. that explains some of these things to you. But this is not that. What
No.
is this?
I don't know.
Okay.
So the other thing is, I also don't know what the actual reason is that a lot of people have decided that Job is the earliest book in the Bible, which is a common belief. Cody's right about that.
It is a common belief, yes.
So, and I don't know why that's claimed. So, like, that is an option as to why it might be popular. I don't know.
I think the reason for that claim, and I to be fair, I haven't done the work on this, but my assumption is that most people recognize that the Book of Genesis was at the very least not written even in part by Adam.
Yes.
And I think there's a broad recognition that the Book of Genesis was written certainly no earlier than the end of the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
So I think there are a number of people who also like to think, on the basis of some of the features within the Book of Job, in terms of, even though, like, and let's be clear here, the story itself is intended to set Job in this. It's more of a timeless space.
It
but
clearly has like the societal features of like Iron Age, Middle East or Near East area, but like there's nothing that could nail it down at a particular year. It doesn't reference any political figures, any cities.
Yeah.
It
just
mentions
by
Chaldeans,
design, right?
Because it's supposed to be a theodicy, not a historical account.
Yes, but it is in the perspective of a long time ago, very, very far away.
In the East,
right?
Which might be China.
In the East. Maybe, I guess. It could be.
Maybe Kent's right all along. It was all about China. Job is Chinese. It's a very Chinese-sounding name, if you think about it.
A very, very Chinese-sounding name. So, I think that's where this comes from. That some people are like, well, this is, because this is an actual thing for some reason. This story, I believe this is Hugh Ross's position, right? That Job is the oldest book of the Bible, and that it describes an actual thing that happened to Job.
Okay, Hugh.
I think with that in view, that's why. It's because I like Hugh Ross. In the book that he wrote on the Book of Job, said that that
he
it
wrote
belonged.
A whole book about Job.
He wrote a whole book about Job, and the only reason I know this is because when I was still doing my PhD and teaching at Trinity Western University, one of my colleagues was out of town for a conference, and she asked me to fill in for her class. And for this class, she had brought in Hugh Ross to speak about his new book.
Yeah.
I've told you this. I told the chat this story? I don't know.
I'm not
sure. So he was brought in to talk about this new book that he wrote on the Book of Job, and we were going to run these discussion groups afterwards. And I picked up the book. I scanned it. I read a little bit of it. I was very angry, and I wrote, I don't know, 7 or 8 page response critique of it, and I posted it on the class learning portal for everyone to see. The teacher forwarded a copy of it to Hugh Ross so that that he could have it. But yes, these are the things I remember about his book. The Book of Job is the oldest book in the Bible. It was written during the time of the patriarchs on the basis of just some nebulous, airy-fairy sorts of ideas with regards to the sacrificial system on display in the Book of Job, and there's just so much that's not clear there that you can't draw anything out of, and the other things I remember about Hugh Ross's book is that animals are all, anything that breathes is a soulish creature.
Okay.
And
that's not super unusual in Christian theology, so I'm okay, whatever.
That was new to me. So, but and dark matter is in the Bible. So,
you know what? I don't even want to know. That's sure.
Okay.
I'm just going to accept that. That's his conclusion, and I don't need to know where it came from.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to piss me off.
It will. It really will.
So we have a whole bunch of stuff
super chats.
Yeah. Kent Long Halstead of Nantucket for $4.99 says, the snow sheds are an accurate depiction of Kip's home country. Yeah, maybe Job just was taken to Canada where the snow is kept.
Do you know what a real snow shed is? Do people know what snow sheds are? We have tons of them. Do you know what a snow shed is, Dapper?
Is it a shed full of snow?
It absolutely is not.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
Where do you keep your snow
sheds? In the mountains where it belongs.
Explain.
Right.
Explain for the Americans.
Snow sheds are covers that they build over top of highways, which are hugging the sides of mountains, so that when the snow falls off the mountain, as it always does, it doesn't crush the cars that are below it.
Okay. Why is this area of the world inhabited by humans?
Snowboarding's fun.
Yeah, to go visit and do. It's not a good reason to live in a place where the mountain's precipitation tries to kill you regularly enough. You have an architecture-based solution for it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. Canada shouldn't be inhabited except for maybe like southern Ontario.
I'm unleashed now, so you're fucking right about that.
All right. LARPer Nurse for $5 says, on a scale of kerning to pelagic tunicates, how much do you question your life choices? It's about kerning. It's not quite at pelagic tunicate levels yet. AIG is a satchel of schlongs, hashtag free Kip, and we'll take a drink. Thank you very much. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $4.99 says, I think Bodhi would think Pilgrim's Progress was history if no one told him it was allegory. You might be right about that. I think if I don't think Bodhi could distinguish between those two. Meat Permits Tad for $5 says, Rocco's Basilisk is why you don't let internet libertarians theory craft without mocking them in ways they deserve. AIG is aubergines in anorak, and we'll take it.
Sorry, I'm still stuck on this last one. Now I really want to know if Bodhi believes that the Lord of the Rings is a true history of, like, the UK.
I mean, to be fair, Tolkien did write it as like a legendary history for England in the way that like, the Greeks have their legendary history.
Which has me thinking maybe Bodhi is
he might
is quite sure of the.
And I mean, Tolkien was a Christian, not the same kind as Bodhi, but still he was a Christian.
They love that shit.
Yeah. Although I feel like Bodhi's more of a Narnia than a Middle Earth kind of guy.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Renee Resurfacing Fossil Trees Reborn for $10 says, my favorite description of Rocco's Basilisk is, what if a boot will exist in the future that's so large you have to lick it now? It's basically Tech Bro Pascal's wager. Yes, it is. That's a great description of it. Kent Long Halstead of Nantucket for $4.99 says, Kip is free. He is. That is the one that got it. Terrador's final
That's
form
it.
for 500 Argentinian pesos says, actually, Job was written a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away by Klingons from Gallifrey with a Darwin deal with it emoji.
Yeah,
That checks out.
yeah, that's true. I did forget about that. That was
Star Song for for $10. I almost said it for $100. It's for $10. We have documented evidence of languages that predate the Tower of Babel, not to mention civilizations that predate anything in the Bible by thousands of years. See, that's where you're wrong, for reasons that it would be inconvenient for Bodhi that you were right. So
That's what this boils down to.
Yeah. That's... All right, here we go. So, by comparing ages that were dropping post-flood... I hate that phrase. His age would fit in the range near Abraham. See the chart on the years after creation in chapter 21. So that's basically his whole thing for why Abraham is because Job's age fits in with the recorded death ages of people around Abraham's time.
I think that's it.
And it is for Bodhi.
I guess.
Bodhi has a very, very different set of criteria than you do for what he's going to assess.
I think Moses lived to be like 120, didn't he? Like what's 20 years between friends?
Well, I mean, how long did Abraham live?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't.
Also, Job was in the land of Uz, and if one looks at the table of nations, Uz was out of the lineage of Shem. Okay, this ancient nation began early, so it makes sense that Job could be living in a land named for such a patriarch. He was the greatest of the peoples of the East. Was he? Is that a thing that's in Genesis? Is that in the table of nations somewhere?
No, but that is. I mean, no. I do think that is how Job is introduced in the book of Job.
Oh, he's the greatest of the peoples of the East. Job. I thought the reference was to
Job is.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Oh no.
So clearly, Job was not living in the land of Israel, but rather eastward. I mean, I will say that does seem like where the book's setting it. Yeah, is somewhere east of Israel.
Yes.
Good job.
That's okay, right?
I don't know how that's supposed to help, but sure.
Good.
Also, there is no mention of the Israelite law or covenants with Abraham and the following. Yeah, because it's supposed to not actually take place at any particular time. Whatever, who cares?
But here he's actually going to point out, I see, that these are dumb, right?
Okay.
These are dumb arguments. I hope.
But the thing is, with Bodhi, you can't tell, right?
No.
Because he will sometimes correctly point out that an argument is dumb and wrong for the right reasons. But the problem is that he will, at other times, take arguments that are equally dumb and equally wrong and just accept them whole cloth, just swallow the whole thing, and not even notice the problem there.
And I mean, sometimes he'll point out that arguments are dumb and wrong, but then have dumb and wrong reasons for thinking that arguments are dumb and wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is that
could be that
whether or not something is a good reason to believe something, or whether there's evidence, or whether it's even internally coherent, none of those things can be used to predict the likelihood of Bodhi accepting a proposition. Bodhi accepting a proposition is entirely independent of anything you might think of as logic, reason, or evidence. It has nothing to do with that. Let's see. Terrador's final form for 200 Argentinian pesos says Land of Oz, Ooze, Cowabunga, bro. See, when I think of Ooze, I think of Ivan Ooze, the best 90s cinematic villain of all time. See, Kip's even seen that movie. Kip knows who Ivan Ooze is.
Sorry, I was distracted.
No, you're just going to have to accept it. You know who Ivan Ooze is. Don't contradict it. Just accept that you know who Ivan Ooze is.
Fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay. Coop23 for $2 says, Ooze, a very Chinese location name.
Meat Permits Tad is asking for a fit check.
Oh, what you got?
Yeah. Did you guys want to see the back?
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Spin around.
I have to stand up
for us, monkey. Nice. There you go.
So.
All right. Also, there is no mention of the Israelite law or covenants with Abraham and and following, but is such a thing a valid argument for antiquity since Job was not living in Israel? Sorry, that just sounds like Giorgio Tsoukalos wrote that line. The guy from Ancient Aliens. But is such a thing a valid argument for antiquity since Job was not living in Israel?
Maybe.
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
Yeah.
In fact, other speculations have been brought forth to push for antiquity as well, such as the family unit being the patriarchal system, or Chaldeans being nomads and not city dwellers. Actually, I don't think you can make that conclusion from the book. It just says that Chaldeans came and attacked. I don't see why they couldn't have come out of a city, but oh well. And Job offering sacrifices in a priestly fashion. Sure. The family unit is still not. The family unit is still to be the proper system even today. What?
The family unit is still to be.
What does that mean?
The proper system. Even.
Are you just saying that people should have families, Bodhi? Is that what you're trying to say? What? Oh, you know what? No. Okay. Here's the thing. I know what this is. On the face of it, that sentence makes no sense at all. But here's the thing. You got to remember. No. Bodhi's a fucking sexist. Right? So all he's doing here is he's saying, oh, we should do the complementarian family dynamic that from like a 1950s sitcom. That's what he's actually saying.
But what is the sentence even? Like
it's him saying that in the most clumsy way imaginable.
But it's fucking idiotic nonsense.
Yeah. Have you read any of this book before?
Yeah. I mean, we have been reading it for 6 months and 44 going on 44 hours now. Yes.
Metageeky Platypus Warlock for $5 says the only way for Bodhi to counter swallowing a bad reason is to swallow a bigger, badder reason. Someday he may swallow a horse, just like that poor old woman who started out by swallowing a fly. Yes.
She ends up.
Does in fact end up swallowing a horse, and then I'm pretty sure she dies after that. Pro tip: don't swallow a whole horse. Go to France and get little slices of horse and put it on a sandwich, and then swallow it that way. Not actually the only place you can get horse on a sandwich in France, but it is one of the big ones.
That's wow.
You didn't know that the French ate horse?
I have never been to France.
I mean, I haven't either, but I still know they eat horse.
Many places. I didn't know that. So yeah.
In the United States, it's not illegal to eat horse or to butcher a horse for eating, but it is illegal to sell horse meat. So the only way for you to legally acquire horse meat in the United States, at least as far as I know, and I'm not a lawyer, so if you want to go buy horse meat, I think
I've been to France. Now I have to think.
Yeah, if you're in the U.S. and you want horse meat, the only way to really do it is to buy a live horse and then hire the services of like a butcher, or just dress it yourself. Like you have to buy a live horse, slaughter it, and then either butcher it yourself or have it butchered. And then you can accept those services and take that meat and eat it. But like you're not allowed to sell horse meat in the US. So yeah, it's not easy to get horse meat if you live in the United States and you want it. Which I don't, so I don't really care, but like it is a process. Stardust Lilith for $5 says unleash the Kip. Well, good news, the Kip has been unleashed. Kent Long Halstead of Nantucket for $4.99 says, you guys are all wrong. East means Hawaii. Oh, we're that far east. Gee.
Wow.
How did the Chaldeans get all the way to Hawaii? That's impressive.
They were the Maori. They just,
they just called them
right.
Chaldean. But even then, I don't know if you know, but New Zealand and Hawaii aren't very close to each other.
They're not.
Then again, nothing is very close to Hawaii. That's kind of the point.
But this is true. Very true.
Star Song for $5 says, my former religion says that Earth is only 6,000 years old. Niagara Falls is at least 12,000 years old. How does that make sense? It doesn't. It just doesn't.
Oh,
right?
no, it does. It does. Come on, listen.
Here we go.
The cosmos was formed out of the waters.
Okay.
That's it.
Oh, okay. I thought there was more to it.
Oh,
okay.
Are you kidding?
I don't know.
This is theology. There's never more to it. So
I mean, I've read some theology that went on for a very long time and went into very, very deep topics.
About nothing but fucking bullshit. So
I'm just saying, I find theologians usually be pretty long-winded.
Because fair. Yes. And they're talking about nothing. Like the whole damn time.
Terrador's final form for 200 Argentinian peso says, Job migrated east to China. Who else did? Tokarians. Tokarian Job confirmed. Well, there we go. We just solved the mystery. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $4.99 says, no widespread Torah observance. So earlier than the Hasmonean period, that narrows it down. I mean, yeah, there is that.
It certainly does. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Torah existed
Very good.
before the Hasmoneans, but yeah, it does seem like that's when the idea of widespread observance of it,
Widespread
yeah.
Torah observance, and even then, it's not clear how widely it caught on. So
Well, I will say I do believe that there is archaeological evidence of like egg husbandry in the
100%.
area, like continuously throughout the
Absolutely.
entire time. So at the
Yes.
very least, not everyone was on board with all the dietary restrictions. We can say that with very high levels of certainty. So,
But this is, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a another story for another day. But I will also say that dietary restrictions in the region are also probably not always religious.
yeah. Well, I mean, even in the Torah, when the dietary restrictions are given, there's not a whole lot of reasoning as to why this is the case. It's just like, this is just unclean for you. Just don't do it. And that's the thing is, I generally don't think that dietary restrictions and dietary taboos come about in ways that make a whole lot of sense. They just come about and they become cultural markers, right? Like, there's no particular reason for the Cushitic fish taboo, which is another food taboo that's relatively famous, although it's not as famous as like the Abrahamic pork taboo. So the Cushitic fish taboo is a taboo against eating fish that exists in like southeast, well, like middle of Africa to the east, eastern Africa, but like south of like Egypt, right? And a lot of people in that region just find the idea of eating fish disgusting in the same way most Westerners find the idea of eating insects. It's gross, dirty, disgusting food. They wouldn't put it anywhere near them. Why? Almost no one else in the world has a fish taboo. I don't know why. It just happens.
I'll tell you my thoughts on this, because you didn't ask. So I think this is in large part a product of the fact that one of the valuable aspects of pork in antiquity, well, even still today, you don't need a lot of space to raise pigs. They're good animals, to keep inside of urban environments, inside of cities, because they don't require a lot of space. And I think that this is probably deeply distantly connected for these people to what I think is a reaction and a rejection to urbanization, urban forms of culture within the Canaanite city-states, as these people are moving into the Judean highlands and setting up villages and more, just independent living spaces, living off the land. It's a way of kind of giving the finger and saying "fuck you" to their former Canaanite urban overlords.
I think that's reasonable.
So,
let's see. Ben Murphy, who's been a member for 8 months and is at the Tetrapod level, says, Ivan Ooze's Hole, now my favorite Sid supermarket. Nice. Is that what they built there, huh? Okay. Meat Permits Tad for $2 says, do you need a horse slaughter? I do not. I do not have a horse to slaughter. But if I do, I'll let you know. I also
do not.
Yeah. Dutch Domestic T-Rex Tunica for $2 says, humans have been wearing clothes for 50,000 plus years. Yeah, there's actual like paleoanthropology about this. It also we can also trace it with things like when did the human head and versus body louse diverge. It also lines up with some of our first archaeological evidence of clothing, because body lice like to live in clothing. And speaking of human lice, hey, here's a fun thing: the human head louse is most closely related among lice to human body louse, and then that group is most closely related to the chimpanzee louse, which makes sense. Chimpanzees being the closest relatives of humans.
Sure.
But the human genital louse is most closely related to the gorilla body louse. So do with that information what you will.
This is the sort of thing I have to think hard about.
You don't have to, but I can tell that you will, and good luck with it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Prostetnik Vogon Jelts for 69 sex says
This is
the
why I
story
hate you.
I know. The story so far. In 2013, Bodhi Hodge wrote a book. This has made a lot of people angry and widely regarded as a bad move. That is an excellent use of that quotation
Yes.
from Douglas Adams. Thank you very much. Star Song for $5 says, I have Signature in the Cell and Darwin's Black Box. All my personal research in the last 7 years does not support anything in these books. I don't have Signature in the Cell, but I do have Darwin's Black Box, or at least I did at one point. I actually had the original
Are
printing.
both of those written by
I
Behe?
believe that is true. They're both at least like
Okay.
ID type books. I think they're both by Behe. Actually, the one time I ever spoke to Behe, I mentioned that I had a first printing of his book. And he's like, "Wow, you must be very old." And I'm thinking, "You have no idea, Michael. You have no idea." All right, the family.
Andrew says Behe and Meyer.
Oh, is it Meyer?
No.
Oh, Meyer. Yeah, that does make
Yeah.
sense. You know, one of my most popular videos ever was about Meyer.
Really?
Yeah, I did this like
Wow.
ridiculously long, like 4-hour takedown of one of his big speeches that he gave that basically covered like all of his talking points. And I just systematically went through and destroyed every single thing that he said, basically. Terrador's final form for 200 Argentinian pesos says, to be frank about gorilla lice, Tarzan was lonely. You know, it gets lonely out in the jungle. It's true.
It's true.
All right. There are still some nomadic Chaldeans today. Okay, and there have been nations sacrificing from Genesis 3 to today. Of course, with Jesus Christ being the ultimate
What?
sacrifice, that need has actually been satisfied. Okay, Bodhi. Oh,
There are still some nomadic Chaldeans today.
I have no idea if that's true or not. I don't even know how I would go about assessing.
I mean, what? I mean, I don't even.
all
don't even
that
think
says to me is that there are
you can
nomadic Arabs, which is
identify-
true. Yeah.
Right, but that's just what he's like. Ugh.
Oh, to
Okay.
be fair, TBF is to be fair in this case. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Also, hey, Bodhi. I know that you're a Christian, and I don't really care either way about that. But you can't tell other people who don't already accept your theology that they shouldn't bother sacrificing because your theology says there's no more need for sacrifice. That's not how it works. In order to agree with you on that, they would have to agree with your theology in the first place. And spoiler alert, most people don't. In fact, most Christians don't agree with all of your theology. In fact, even core aspects of your theology, like the Trinity, not a universal Christian belief. The idea of like penal substitutionary atonement, not a universal Christian belief. The idea of inherited guilt for original sin, not a universal Christian belief. All of these things are things that other people who are Christians disagree with you on. And so while it would be already very inappropriate to try to impose that your particular theology on all Christians, even more inappropriate when you're talking about non-Christians. So we'll just put that out there. Some believe that that possession of livestock was an indication of the age to which Job lived. I mean, I guess it would put like a limit as to how far in the past, because it couldn't be before domestication.
Okay.
In other words, they suggest that livestock and not gold or silver or other precious metals was used to measure wealth. The claim suggests it was not until the time of Solomon that worth was measured in silver or gold. Well, okay.
What?
So first, Bodhi doesn't
What?
agree. I don't think Bodhi agrees with this. But
Okay. All right.
it is the case
It's
that...
super dumb, though.
So, look, here's the thing, right? There have been our cultures in which the primary way that you measure wealth is by the size of your livestock flocks, right? That's a thing. But also,
we're still doing that.
Yeah.
Aren't we?
Yeah, like I said, there have been and still are cultures where that's how you measure wealth. But also,
Even
coinage, or well, not coinage in particular, but using precious metals as a long-term store of value goes back to like the earliest aspects of like Sumerian history, right? Like we have things like them making spiral-shaped bits out of gold or silver and cutting bits off of that and weighing them as a form of paying for taxes and putting in temple or royal treasuries and things like that.
Oh, yeah, but look, I grew up in Alberta, which is cattle country here in Canada. And you better fucking believe that ranchers are measuring their wealth by the size of their herds.
Oh, yeah.
That's That's just, I mean, we're still fucking doing
Yeah.
this.
And the thing is,
Like,
it
this is
doesn't
dumb.
contrast with people using units of
No!
currency. Like, both
There
of those
are
can
all
coexist.
sorts of ways that you calculate your wealth.
Goop23 for $5 says he cannot go 10 seconds without talking about Jewish texts and mentioning Jesus. Yeah, Bodhi is kind of like that. Some believe... Oh, no, we already did that. But even today, livestock is measured... Well, good. You know what, Bodhi? We'll take a drink. You were absolutely right about
very
that.
good. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay.
Growing up as a farmer, the bank recognized our wealth in livestock more than cash flow. Well, I mean, yeah, you can put up livestock as collateral at the bank. That's fair.
Probably also true.
Wow. I would
Wow.
imagine that banks, especially in like rural areas where ranching is common, are very willing to put up to accept livestock as collateral because they can just easily sell it at an auction, right? That's why they allow like real estate because the bank doesn't want your house.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can auction off your house and instead of you giving them back the money that you owe them, they'll do it. I'm sure it's the same way with cattle. But for those who suggest gold and silver were not of value in Job's day, then consider this passage from Job. Then all his brothers and sisters and all those who had been his acquaintances acquaintances before came to him and ate food with him in his house, and they consoled him and comforted him with for all the adversity the Lord had brought upon him. Each one gave him a piece of silver and each a ring of gold. Okay, Bodhi, I don't think that even the people who are making this argument, who are wrong, I agree with you, Bodhi, they're wrong. But I don't think even they are saying that no one valued gold and silver, because we have gold and silver ornamentation from long before history, right? Like, the use of gold and silver for ornamental purposes predates the invention of coinage by a lot. But then again, the thing is, I'm using all these arguments as if Bodhi accepts anything about history that's actually true from, like, before the middle of the Iron Age, and he doesn't.
But wait a minute, like what if, Bodhi, the usage, the mining of gold and silver and the usage for currency happened like after the beginning of the book of Job and then before the end of the book of Job?
Oh, so like Job was living through like the creation
Yeah,
of
he
like,
lived
silver
through
and
the
goldsmithing?
creation of
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe. Territor's final form for 200 Argentinian pesos says, I showed you my cattle. Please respond. Job, probably. Yeah, I showed you my cattle. Jeez. Meat permits, Tad for $2. Kip's copper is poor quality. Kip Nasir. Oh no, Kip. Have you been selling people poor quality copper? And telling their servants to either accept the copper or leave? Have you been doing this, Kip?
I do a lot of things.
Okay.
So
it's cheating people and their servants, read slaves, out of good copper. Is that one of them?
No, it's not. It really isn't. And Matt, meat permits Tad should stop spreading these terrible rumors.
Yeah, that's libelous, my friend.
It is. It really is.
Then people will stop buying Kip's good high quality copper, which he definitely didn't steal from construction sites at night.
No.
I don't know if you know that, Kip, but that's actually a concern at some construction sites. It's like people breaking in at night to steal copper.
Oh, I am aware. Yes.
Yeah. I've definitely been in situations when I could have committed felonies, but also pretty safely walked away with several $1,000s worth of copper. I didn't, because I didn't want to be convicted of a felony. But I was thinking, like,
True.
Geez, the back of my truck right now has thousands of dollars worth of copper in it. Just like right now. But people know that. Territor's final form for 200 Argentinian pesos says, since you love non-pulmonics, the S in the seer is actually... Wait. Oh, it's... Oh, is it? Wait, is it really an adjective? In that theater? That's interesting. Huh. Do you know about adjectives, Kip? There's no adjectives in Hebrew, so I probably imagine no.
No.
Oh, drink for Mothra. So, most consonants in most languages are pulmonic, which means that the pressure comes from your lungs pushing against parts of your mouth. But in a non-pulmonic consonant, you actually close off your glottis so that pressure from your lungs can't enter your mouth. And then you use your tongue compressing air that's already in your mouth to produce the pressure. So rather than it being, it's, which you might not be able to hear the difference in.
No.
That just
But
proves that Kip
could
isn't a
be.
linguist, and neither am I.
It's true.
Neither of us are linguists.
No.
Jester for $5 says, the stock market, which endeavors to value your worth based on your speculated profit from anything, uses the term bull market for a reason, Bodhi. I mean, to be fair, Bodhi is pro people still using livestock as a measure of wealth. He's very much
correct.
Oh, I just screwed that up. So give me a second. We'll take a Dapper's a professional drink since I typed in the donation amount wrong. So Dapper's a professional. Here we go. By the way, I'm pretty sure that Bent Gets Pizza is only at the 90% mark. So we're more than halfway to Bent getting a free pizza. Okay. Let's see. Consider also Job 3:15. It's not the 3:15 I usually hear about, but okay. This is expected in light of Genesis 2:11. Okay, hold on. What is Job 3:15? Or with princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Okay, cool. This is expected in light of Genesis 2:11 through 12, which is the name of the first is Pishon. It is the one which starts the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of the land is good.
And the gold is good.
But is there a missing letter here?
No, it's bdellium.
Okay.
And
the onyx stone are there.
Mineral.
Okay. I don't know how that connects, but whatever. But even in Abraham's day, gold and silver was used to measure wealth. Genesis 13:2. I don't care. And long before Solomon, as the Israelites received gold and silver upon the exodus from Egypt, but all these things are not proof of antiquity. We need to take a deeper look. So the thing is, I know.
Good.
This is true. This is true. These are not things that are proof of antiquity. But I'm pretty sure he's going to go to the dumbest possible place from there.
I bet I'm bracing for it.
All right. Well, Kip, you get to take us away with the land of Uz.
The land of Uz. Many have placed the land of Uz in Arabia, since perhaps east of the Sea of Galilee, or perhaps east of the Sea of Galilee in Bashan. Others place it a little south of Bashan in Edom proper. Why is it Edom proper? Why not just a dome?
I don't know.
There were attacks by the Sabaeans and the Chaldeans, Job chapter 1, verses 15 to 17. But this gives us little information to a precise location. But you know what it does do, Dinosaur?
Mm-hmm.
Gives us a pretty fucking good idea of when the book of Job was written.
Sometime when Sabaeans and Chaldeans being a threat was reasonable?
Yes. And this was, well after the 7th or the 6th centuries.
You know what would be an interesting
BCE?
topic? Is there a connection between the Sabaeans mentioned in Job and the ones mentioned in the Quran?
That would be an interesting.
We do not have a great idea who the Quran is talking about when it talks about the Sabaeans.
I wouldn't know.
But it does it all the time, and it talks about them being people of the book, which in Quranic terms basically means that they received prophets from God whom they followed to some extent, even if they perverted the teachings at some point. Which seems that it's grouping them in with Christians and Jews. And the Mandaeans today will claim to be the Sabaeans, because the Sabaeans are talked about baptizing. But
I bet.
I don't know.
Yeah. I bet David Wood has some thoughts on this, but people should not consult him.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. No. All right.
Real quick, Lieutenant Math Navigator for $4.99 says, Pishon had a truly unfortunate name, but not as much as his brother Pishon.
Very nice. Very nice.
Good stuff.
Okay. The Chaldeans, the land that Abraham was originally from in the southeastern part of the Fertile Crescent, Genesis 11:28. What the fuck is that? So no, the Chaldeans is not the land that Abraham, he was from Chaldea.
Yeah.
And,
Also,
like, what?
the Chaldeans aren't a land; they're a people group.
They're not. They're a people group.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like
And
this is so weird.
and then in the southeastern part of the Fertile Crescent, Genesis 11:28-31 is, I mean, is there clearly he did he forget some punctuation, or is this?
I don't know. I mean, this
is just?
I mean, it's consistent with the fact that he didn't have an editor, right?
Yes.
Like he clearly
Yes,
did not have an editor.
Oh, do you think he just quoted the entire text there? He probably did. He's just quoting the entire text of these in the footnotes.
Also,
yes.
Regios has just gifted 10 Dapper Dinosaur memberships.
Wow.
So here's what I'm going to
Very
do.
nice.
I'm going to start drinking while Kip continues on.
Keep drinking. So, it gets worse. Yeah. So the Chaldeans and Sabaeans, descendants of Sheba, who was a descendant of Yoktan living in Arabia,
Right.
have been known in history to attack various places throughout the Middle East.
I mean, to be fair, everyone has been known to attack various people around them.
When you're in the Middle East,
yeah,
at some point, like, yeah. Okay.
It actually is. It reminds me of one of my least favorite tropes that you sometimes come across, which is the idea that there are like some groups of people around the world that are like just inherently more peaceful versus more aggressive, and it's like no, the history of the world is full of bloody conflict on most sides.
It's all aggression.
Yeah,
it just all is. That's it.
Humans are not so far.
Crescent.
Humans are not so far removed from chimpanzees fighting for territory and biting each other's scrotums off because they got pissed off that you encroached in their territory.
Yeah. Most of us have outgrown throwing our shit.
You know what, though? I think that's only because we now have more effective weapons. I'm pretty sure that if you gave someone no access to weapons, they'd be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going for it. Just throw some poop. Like the
Fertile Crescent.
Sorry, go ahead.
The Fertile Crescent was the place of hostilities and continues to be even today.
A place of hostilities, there. Spoiler alert, there are hostilities outside of the Fertile Crescent.
They're all there. No, Dapper, they're all there. It's the place. That's where they all are.
You know about the 5 states period in Chinese history, where the 5 different Chinese kingdoms were constantly warring with each other? All those wars, they actually took place in the Fertile Crescent. They marched their armies all the way across Asia to have battles in the Fertile Crescent because that's the place of hostility. American Revolutionary War, all those battles, Battle of Concord, Battle of Lexington, in Iraq, actually.
I did think of something. How long? What year is this book?
That's a great question.
Do you remember?
I don't.
Was this because maybe, I mean, if it's possible that Bodhi has, the second and the first Gulf Wars fresh in his mind from writing this book, and is such a fucking historically illiterate moron that he thinks, well, there's just always those damn people living there are just always.
Given his age,
they're always just causing shit.
Given his age, those might just be the wars that are most prominent in his mind, because those would have been the wars going on when he was like growing up. Terrador's final form. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say fuck you, Bodhi. Can I fuck you, Bodhi? Seriously.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree. Although I would prefer not to. Like, someone else can do it. Let his wife take care of that. Terrador's final form for $500 says, Bodhi claims Sabaeans are people from Saba. I don't know if the geography matches, but do you yourself favor and look up Sabaic writing? It literally looks like an alien script, and it's really cool. I am not familiar with it. Although I do know that Saba was the name of Tommy Oliver's dagger or short sword that he had when he became the White Ranger after the Green Ranger powers were depleted. I do know that.
Very exciting.
Yes. And Saba actually made a comeback in Super Ninja Steel for like one scene. Because we hadn't seen Saba in a very long time. There was no explanation for that. It's an entire character who talked and was its own like person, just disappeared one day, no one talked about it, and then just showed back up 20 years later and
How about that?
and caught an arrow out of the sky.
Wow.
With a Falcon Zord. It's very cool. Anyway, Kent Long Halstead of Nantucket says, does this man in the year of our Lord 2025 not know that the past was a terrible place? He might not. Well, then again, he does, though, because he thinks that the flood came because specifically the world was a terrible place. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I'm going back up to it. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for 499 says, fun fact, the Battle of Jutland was fought in the Iraqi desert. Interesting. Yep. That's according to Bodhi.
I've heard that. Yes, yeah. I've heard it.
All right, so here's the deal.
Oh, good.
We're going to take a quick break, though, before we get to,
we need to do that.
This expositor, Matthew Henry. Wait, is expositor a real title?
Jesus Christ. No, this is Bodhi being stupidly pretentious.
Uh-huh. All right, well, we are going to be back in just a second because I am out of my beer. And if I'm out of my beer,
I'm getting coffee.
Then we can't do the drinks. So, all right, we will be back in just a little bit. In the meantime, I guess have fun with the intermission. So here we go. Alrighty, everybody, we are back. So first, I want to say thank you very much to Fool Yol, who for $2 says AIG is a satchel of phalli, and I will take a drink for that. Thank you. Grizz1231, who's been a member for a month at the Tetrapod level, says I finally get to catch a live stream. Or sorry, I finally get to catch a stream live. Yes, you do. Congratulations. Now, we're going to go through this pretty quickly. I'm just going to say thank you so much for all your generosity, everyone. You know that your support is the way that this channel stays able to keep producing, like 3 videos a week. And it's been doing that, I believe now, again, for over a year without interruption. There was a quick interruption, I believe, like December, like before the last one, in which I actually ended up streaming on your channel, Kip, instead of my own channel. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. I do remember that.
But yeah, your guys and your generosity is the reason that the channel basically exists in the way that it does. And so if you are currently enjoying the channel and the content that I put out, and you want to keep seeing it keep being produced, and you want to get it as soon as it's produced, there are a couple really important ways to help with that. You can join the Patreon, which is linked in the description. You can also join the channel memberships with the join button right below this. Both of those give you access to my Discord server that's just for supporters. They both give you early access to something like 6 months worth of videos that have already been produced but have not been released. There we go. There's a sentence. And so that starts at only $1 on the Patreon. You can get a 15% discount if you go annually. So it's less than $11 if you go for a year at the $1 tier. Starts at $1.99 on YouTube. There's no discount for annual stuff there. And yeah, so if you want to help out, please do that. There's also other ways to help out. There's a merch store link right below this. I have an Amazon wishlist linked in the description. Also, Kip's channel is linked in the description. He also has a Patreon. You can go sign up for that if you want to help him out. So yeah, that's going to be the commercial bit. Stardust Lilith, I can enunciate. It's okay. For $5 says, "Aw, Dapper, no shade on Kip. Dr. Kip, the dog is already getting shade for both of them." All right, so we are going to jump right back in because I feel like we might still have a while to go in this, and we're not stopping until we're done.
Yeah. And I got things to do, right? Yeah. So we gotta get through this. All right. But now I have to fix there we go. Okay. And do this. Oh, I think, sorry.
We're actually really getting close to Bent gets free pizza.
Wow. Awesome. Okay.
Free pizza.
Shall we read what expositor Matthew Henry has to say here?
Yes, because he places the land of Uz in Arabia.
He places it in the land of Arabia. The country he lived in was the land of Uz, in the eastern part of Arabia, which lay towards Chaldea near Euphrates, probably not far from Ur of the Chaldees, whence Abraham was called. When God called one good man out of that country, yet he left not himself without witness, but raised up another in it to be a preacher of righteousness. Do you know who Matthew Henry is?
I don't. That doesn't sound familiar to me.
He was a 17th century Puritan commentator who wrote a complete commentary on the Bible.
Okay. I have a quick question. Mm-hmm. Why in the holy hell would anyone care what he has to say?
I was drinking my coffee. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Is it just because he agrees with Bodhi, so Bodhi wants to cite him?
Maybe. So I don't know. God damn it, I'm a biblical scholar. I'm not a fucking whatever the fuck this would be.
To be fair though, I did ask because you did know who he was, so I thought maybe you might know why he seemed significant.
My father had a complete set of Matthew Henry's commentaries on his bookshelf, and I believe it was probably also the very first ever secondary source I consulted when writing my first research paper when I was in Bible college.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a couple super chats.
So
Terrador's Final
yeah.
Form for 200 Argentinian peso says, Kip, what could be more important than the contents of this book, especially in your line of work?
Oh,
Yeah, that's a good point.
my God, are you kidding me? A budget scripture Saturday is tonight.
Mhm.
I need my sleep before diving into that pile of debauchery. So yeah.
Also, Kent Long Halstead of Nantucket for $4.99 says, okay, now that we've read it as a class, there will be a 4-paragraph book report due next week. Oof, no, I do not want to read anyone's 4-paragraph book report on this. I'm okay with having read it. Let's go, Kip.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here.
Okay. The problem with this is that the Jordan River mentioned in Job 40 was nowhere near the Euphrates River. Is that what I... Okay, right. Oh, good. We're back to Dr. John Gill. Dr. John Gill says, and why does he like... can you scroll up for a minute? No, keep going. Okay, yeah. So there we go. Now scroll back down to the other page. I mean, okay, I see. All right. It's. I thought he had a. He doesn't. But I thought he had a formatting error. But it's fine. A Prixie Solus Dyslexic Purple, 8:00 Pacific, 11:00 Eastern. The place where he dwelt had its name not from Uz, a descendant of Shem, Genesis. Oh, he's got these fucking hashtags in here. I'm guessing because he just copied and pasted this off of some GeoCities URL
Probably.
internet source that he...
Probably.
Genesis 10:23, but from Uz, a son of Nahor, brother of Abraham, Genesis 22:21, unless it can be thought to be so called from Uz, of the children of Seir in the land of Edom. Since we read of the land of Uz along with Edom, or rather of Edom, as in the land of Uz, or on the borders of it, Lamentations 4:21, the Targum calls it the land of Armenia, but rather it is Arabia. And very probably it was one of the Arabias, or one of the Arabias, it's a weird thing to say. One of the Arabias Job lived in, either Petrea or Deserta, probably the latter, of which Uz or Ostitis, as the Septuagint and Vulgate Latin version read it, was a part. The same with the Acetae of Ptolemy. Right, these are we established these are
his internal footnotes. Yeah, that Bodhi does not bother to reproduce. Copy and paste.
Yep. Dinosaur. Copy and paste. And it is said to be near the land of Canaan, for in Arabia Felix the Sabaeans lived. And certain it is that this country was near to the Sabaeans and Chaldeans, and to the land of Edom, from whence Eliphaz the Temanite came. Eliphaz is a character in the book. I was not sure if you knew of that in the book of Job.
Right.
Dapper, okay. And as this very probably was a wicked and idolatrous place, it was an instance of the distinguishing grace of God to call Job by his grace in the land of Uz, as it was to call Abraham in Ur of the Chaldeans. And though it might be distressing and afflicting to the good man to live in such a country, as it was to Lot to live in Sodom, yet it was an honor to him, or rather it was to the glory of the grace of God, that he was religious here and continued to be so. Oh my God, that is, I mean, I don't know what half of that says.
Basically,
in the first place,
it's Dr. Gill saying, I think that Job probably lived in an Arabian kingdom, and then a whole lot of going on and on and on about things that aren't really germane to that argument. And there you go. And also, I don't remember Lot actually being described as disliking living in Sodom. Seems like the only time that became a problem was, during the attempted gang sexual assault of his visitors. It seems like before that, there's no real indication that he liked or disliked it.
No,
and also, God telling him,
nothing.
"Hey, don't look back." Generally, you look back because you have like nostalgia or fond memories of a place. So, for instance, when I say moved out of Massachusetts, when I left, various places that I was very familiar with,
look back?
I did look back.
Oh,
and I was
did
like,
you
oh,
look
yeah.
back? Did you look back?
But on my last day in the Navy, when I walked off the
You did not
tier,
look back.
I did not look back at all, at any point.
Not at all.
No, I didn't have to be told not to either.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Dinosaur.
I hated that place.
But I listen.
The only time I
Okay.
ever even saw that ship again was involuntary because I was driving on a road parallel to the sound that it was moored at.
Did you get heart palpitations as you were?
I was just a little annoyed, and then I continued on. But like,
okay, got it.
If you have to tell someone, "Hey, don't look back," it's because they didn't hate that place.
It's funny imagining you driving a car. I have to say though, this bit here, like he's just making this shit up. Look, I'm a scholar. I can't afford to make shit up just to suit my own theories and my own ideas. Like, what the fuck is this? It's just like all this stuff about us must have been bad because reasons. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. Job was good, and also, like a missionary is,
I guess,
okay, right? Got it. Gil points out that Uz is not to be reckoned as the land from Uz in Genesis 10:23, but a later Uz more likely associated with Edom, and even recognizes the relationship between Teman and Edom. So it sounds like Bodhi thinks that the description of Job being from the east is placing him in Edom. Does he know how close Edom is to Judah?
I doubt it.
Because, like, when the text says that he's a man from the east, if they thought he was from Edom, they would have just said he was from Edom.
Right.
They don't say that. They say he's from the east because in their minds it's fucking far.
Right.
Right? It's not next door, dumbass. Jesus.
We have a couple super chats. My Unfinished Kerning Sock for $2 says, "Don't hail a despotic tyrant. Like and share." Yes, please do like and share. And then Jester for $5 says, "There's no reason to write these things this way other than to torture us. People read this. It says shot. I'm going to say it that way. People read this shot and call it good. Can we read some genealogies instead?" Yeah. It's
thanks, Jester.
It is.
Good to
it is
see
a
you.
Tough read. All right. So
yeah.
the Bible, and specifically Job's internal clues.
The Bible's and specifically Job's internal. Okay, got it.
So these are clues from inside the book of Job specifically.
We're still talking about the dating of Job, right?
Yeah, that's what this whole
we're
appendix
talking
is about.
Oh God, like why were we talking about where it's located? I don't understand.
I don't know either. Let's see. Well,
anyways,
how much longer does this go? Oh no!
Geez.
Oh
no,
no!
Dude, no.
Oh no!
Why are we?
Oh no!
Fuck off!
Oh, we're fucked. We're gonna have to start speed reading. We can't. We can't. Okay.
Oh,
Many,
okay.
many say are reevaluating this and now play. What's the this? Whatever. And now place Job in the time of Judges, approximately 420 to 117 or
Ugh.
1117 BC. Hey, you know what? We're going to take another
Bars.
drink for Bodhi getting the ordering of the numbers right. That's been a challenge for him in the past. Good job.
It has.
For various internal textual reasons, any argument from the internal text of Scripture trumps external evidence, as God is his own authority. Fuck. So there's Bodhi just saying, you know what? Reality can just fuck right off. Whatever
Fuck
I
off.
think the
Just
Bible
fuck off,
says is
reality.
what it
It's
is.
just, that's what it is.
Uh-huh.
Because God's, yes.
Yep.
Because God.
I'm taking a drink for that. That's pretty dumb. That's an
All right,
exceptionally dumb
go.
thing to say.
And then let's look at some of these internal arguments.
Mhm,
Number one, go.
Okay. Genesis 36:19 through 28. There is another Oz mentioned in the Bible who was a descendant of Esau, Edom. He was also a descendant of Shem, and the land of Oz is mentioned as being in Edom, which is in the southeast of Israel, in Lamentations
Right.
4:21. Okay,
Got
cool.
it.
The land
Okay.
of Teman is
Yes.
also in Edom. Example, Obadiah 19 to the 16th power, or whatever.
Ezekiel, Jeremiah, we're done. Okay.
Yeah, whatever. And one of Job's three friends, Eliphaz the Temanite. Interestingly, Teman was a descendant of Eliphaz, the son of Esau.
Oh my
whom,
God,
if
shut up,
accurate,
Bodhi!
Eliphaz the Temanite has a good possibility of being named for his ancestor.
Fine.
Sure.
Right. Okay. But yeah.
Okay. One of Job's three friends was the descendant of Naaman, being Zophar the Naamathite. One possible candidate is Naaman, who was a descendant of Benjamin, Genesis 46:21, who lived just opposite of the Jordan River of Gad and Reuben, which were on the east side of the Jordan River, which is north of Moab and Edom. There is a possibility that some Naamathites were named for whom the city of Nama came from. That is a sentence that does not make sense. So there's a possibility that some Naamathites were named for whom the city of Nama came.
City of Nama.
What? Bodhi, that's not a real sentence. Okay, Bodhi, I have a new bare minimum. This is new. I have had to lower my standards for what the bare minimum for a text is. Have all of your sentences actually function as sentences. There's my new bare minimum. You've lowered, but you have personally lowered what it takes for me to consider something to barely meet the definition of a real book, and you haven't done it in this book. My new bare minimum is that the book actually have sentences that are all things that mean something.
You know how bad this book is? My dog just threw up. It's that bad.
We have a few super chats to read here after I update the number. So 1 second. Let me update that.
Keep reading.
No, we have to do the super chats. Lieutenant Math Navigator, this grasp on geography rivals that of a young Earth creationist that told me that an Israelite couldn't make up the dimensions of the Ark because they lived too far from the sea. All 30 miles away from the Middle Sea. And even if they did live that far away, you can just make up the numbers for how big a boat is. Okay. Wow. Deconstructing Laura for $9.99 says, when I wrote my book on Job, I said Job was from the land of Uz, but we don't know where that is. I also guessed that it was the first book written, and it took place in the days of Abraham. Hey, I mean, you're doing better than Bodhi is, if that's your book. Kent Longhallset of Nantucket for $4.99 says, crazy how Augustine said the exact opposite. Olivia Williams for $5 says, quote, if the Bible says 2 plus 5, if the Bible says 2 plus 2 equals 5, I will adapt my thinking and accept it, said an apologist. Yeah, I do remember that one. And that sure was...
I didn't see it, but I can say yes, because that's generally what apologists do. That's what they do.
So I actually remember when it became relatively public that I was no longer a young Earth creationist, and I had in fact become a theistic evolutionist, as they call them, back in the church that I went to a long, long time ago, the Young Earth Creationist Church. Someone was like, the Bible said, that was their only argument. I was like, well, the Bible says. Someone's like, okay, look, what if Genesis said the sky is purple, just generally? I was like, but it doesn't. I'm like, yeah, okay, but imagine that you read that in the book of Genesis. What would you do with that? The sky clearly isn't purple, so what do you do? Like, well, I guess I would just believe it and think my eyes were wrong. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just not going to do that. So I don't know what else we're going to talk about.
There we go.
All
right.
Sula is the father of the Shuhites. By the way, Kent Hovind has a joke about the Shuhites being the shortest people in the world.
Yes, I've heard that joke.
Yeah.
It wasn't his.
Oh.
I mean, we told that joke in my lame church.
He's the person that I first heard it from. I didn't hear it in my church. Anyway, Shua was the father of the Shuhites. Shua was the one of Abraham's sons with Keturah. His descendants dwelt in the east of the Israelites. Genesis, whatever. Bildad, the Shuhite, was likely a descendant of Abraham through Shua. Expositor. What? That's not a real title, Bodhi.
Yes.
That's just a description of someone. It's not a title. Whatever. Expositor Dr. John Gill says in his commentary notes on Genesis whatever in the 1700s, the name of Shua or Shuach may be traced to Socaccia?
Swaka?
Socaccia sounds like a kind of bread from Italy that I want to try.
It does, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sowaka and Sohaher, cities placed by Ptolemy. Oh, great. Who the fuck cares? Places placed by Ptolemy in Arabia Felix, whatever. Though some think that the posterity of this man are those whom the geographers call Sauhites, and Sacaeans, who settled in Arabia Deserta, and from whom Bildad the Shuhite, Job whatever, descended, which is not improbable. This is clearly someone else wrote this. This is not Bodhi's voice. Bodhi did not write that.
No. This is Dr. John Gill.
Yeah, that is just... Okay.
Right? Yes.
Did he actually spell it out as a quotation? Oh, he did, okay. He put the quotation mark. Okay.
We're
okay. I thought he was plagiarizing there. Sorry.
Yes.
I missed the quotation mark. Yeah.
It's making your brain smooth.
Okay, we have a few more super chats. Terrador's final form for 100 Argentinian peso says, between Bodhi and Ba, I'm starting to think all creationists whose names start with a B are reptilians trying to pass as humans to manipulate our society. That actually reminds me, you know Neil Breen, the American filmmaker?
Yes.
So if you look at the credits for his movies, he'll have a lot of things like, catering and like grip hook and primary photography and whatnot, right? And it's got all these names of like companies and whatnot. But then at the very end, it says like any company name that has either a B or a G was actually just Neil Breen. So really what the credits say is just Neil Breen the entire way down.
Perfect.
That just reminded me of that. And it's one of my favorite little facts is that when you're reading the credits to a Neil Breen movie, you need to keep in mind that virtually all of it, except the actor names, is just Breen himself. Metageeky Platypus Warlock for $5 says, having written a dissertation, I get the urge to just paste in anything you've written before, but Bodhi, stop. Get to the point, please. Yeah, right? It is painful. This is...
Oh my god, it's...
And the thing is, it's not even on topic. There's nothing to do with Tower of Babel.
No!
Bodhi apparently just had some extra research notes, and he was like, fuck it, I'm putting it in the Babel book.
Yes!
The Jordan River is mentioned in Job 40:28, when discussing the behemoth, which has no fear in entering the Jordan when it is flooding. So Job lived near the Jordan. No, that doesn't follow. That doesn't follow at all. Since God pointed out to Job that the behemoth was along with you, and gets its food from the mountains and fields. Yet it says, whom I created along with you. The you is not like Job in particular, it's humans. Because
he was right there, Dapper.
It's not what that sentence means.
When he created him along with you.
I'm taking a drink. It's so obvious that that's not what that sentence means. Jeez. I hate this so much. And gets its food in the mountains and fields, blah, blah, blah. This is clearly not some remote desert region of Arabia, as some commentators have mentioned, but due east of the Jordan River, which essentially runs north-south. Bodhi. Behemoth isn't a real thing. It's a mythical monster. It's not real. It's
not.
You can't find its actual habitat. You can no more find the natural habitat of Behemoth than you can of the Griffin or the Hydra. Like, it's not a real thing. It's fine. Job is seen as the greatest of the people of the East, Job 1:3. Genesis 20, whatever, has Abraham positioning his other sons with Keturah in the east away from Isaac in the place of inheritance. They collectively, with the descendants of Lot, Esau, and Ishmael, whatever, were classed as the people of the East, Isaiah, blah, 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 blah. This was a region beyond the Jordan River. 2.5 of Israel's tribes were immediately on the east side of a portion of the Jordan, Gad, Reuben, and half of Manasseh. This also means that the focal point of God making this declaration was amidst the people of the west side of the river, but who were they?
Oh my God.
He's spending so much time trying to establish something that isn't even establishable. Like, imagine if this is precisely the same as Bodhi trying to argue about where the house is from, like, The Sorcerer's Apprentice by C.S. Lewis. It's like, which village in England and which address is actually the Sorcerer's house where we might find the wardrobe that could lead us to Narnia?
Right, yeah.
It's not real, Bodhi. It was never intended to be real. Jeez, like, normally I say, like, I don't think it's appropriate to call the Bible fiction because most of what wasn't written in anything that could be today recognized as the genre of fiction. This is an exception. There were Canaanites at one point, then Israelites later. No, Israelites just are Canaanites, Bodhi. I'm taking another drink. I just can't. My goodness, Bodhi. Since when were Canaanites the focal point of the Old Testament? Since always, Bodhi. Since always. Because the Israelites are Canaanites, Bodhi. So it was always the focus. The people who wrote the entirety of the Old Testament were all Canaanites. Jeez. Except when the Israelites with Joshua were to judge them for their sins. Another thing that didn't happen, Bodhi. It wasn't until after the Israelites were in the land that there was a focus on a godly group of people on that side of the river. The time of the judges makes more sense as there would be God's.
Oh yes, so much more sense. Right?
Like, does he never notice that the Book of Judges just reads like the Tales of Hercules? It's a bunch of, like,
it would
absurdly like
that would require him to actually read other shit, right?
And like critical mind and whatnot.
Yeah, all that stuff.
By
By the way, I'm
sorry.
I was just gonna say I published a video yesterday about the Canaanites in the books of Joshua and Judges.
Oh,
so people should check it out.
Nice. Well, the one thing is, though, like, it's really, really, really easy to figure out that these are legendary stories about legendary heroes, a lot like Hercules, right? In fact, we even have the story of a super strong guy who gets his power from his special relationship with God, despite, maybe not being the greatest guy, and how he then uses that to defeat the enemies of God and whatnot. Like, it is hard to get a more direct parallel between different legendary heroes than Samson and Hercules or Hercules. Yeah. No, very true. And, like, that's what's going on. It's a legendary history about legendary heroes who do superhuman tasks.
Yeah.
All right, we got a few more super chats here. Vuliol for $2 says, "I like the theory that Behemoth is a hippo. D is a hippo. D. Yes, joke. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure that there are aspects of Behemoth that were based on the hippo, and if you're going to try to identify a real animal that could be Behemoth, hippo's not a bad choice. But, like, we have paintings from antiquity of the Behemoth from, like, synagogues and whatnot. It's a big bull monster. That's literally what it is. It's a big bull monster. It's similar to the Bull of Heaven from the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's what's going on there. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $4.99 says, "This is what God would look like." Hold on. Oh, this is what God would look like if Almondo had access to spell check and easy bid. Got it. Oh man,
that's good.
Maybe that should be our next book. Is we can cover God is.
God is.
It has irrefutable proof that God exists, and I say it that way because that's how Almondo Calvo puts it.
I've heard, yes.
And the thing is, look, I'm not making fun of the fact that Almondo Calvo uses non-standard verb conjugation, because the thing is, it actually is standard for the variety of English that is his native dialect of English. But also, if you're going to write a book of professional apologetics aimed at a general audience, you need to use standard literary English for that. You just do. And I know that's no one's native dialect. Everyone has to deal with that. And it is closer to some people's dialects than others. And those people do have an unfair advantage when it comes to writing in that style. I don't know what to tell you. Life ain't fair. Sorry, Armando, you need to learn how to write in standard English. Standard American English. Or, if you want to, you can go with standard British English. Like, it's an option. You just have to stick with it if you do that. If you want to put a U in color and honor, feel free. Just, be consistent with it. And you can't choose standard Canadian English. It's not an option. That's just a bullshit mix-up of American and British standards. Just don't do it. Yes, I'm throwing shade on Kip.
Sorry, I'm answering.
I could tell. That's
text.
why I was going on throwing shade at you while you were unable to answer.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. There were Canaanites at one point, blah, blah, blah. The time of the judges makes more sense. There would be God's chosen people on the west side of the Jordan. In the King James Version of 1611, even places Job as post-Abraham in the time of judges. Who cares? Guys, okay. I'm going to give you a pro tip. If you're doing scholarly work, pointing out that someone else has said that their conclusion is X is not on its own evidence that X is true. That's not how it works. You actually have to present the evidence. Now, if you happen to agree with that scholar, you can point out what his evidence was, but just saying, hey, the guys who wrote the 1611 King James said, no one cares. It doesn't matter.
No.
Does not matter. They even go so far as to place Job in the lineage of Abraham through Midian, who was a son. Whatever, I don't care. I just stopped caring. God gave Job twice as much as he had before. Who cares? The family of Ram is mentioned in Job 32:2. If we interpret scripture with scripture, which we shouldn't really.
We shouldn't do that, no.
Because they're all separate works written by separate people at separate times for separate reasons.
Sometimes you can, but
it's tricky.
And that is because there are many texts of scripture which are in conversation with other texts of scripture.
That's true, yeah.
But not the way he's doing this.
Yeah,
right.
When he says we interpret scripture with scripture, is we start with the assumption that there are no contradictions, and everyone who wrote scripture had exactly the same theology in mind, and it was the correct theology, whatever that means, and therefore we can use that. But the thing is, there's no evidence of that.
For example, when let's say Exodus 13 says that you should redeem your firstborn son and circumcise him as a memorial, you should read that in conversation with Exodus chapter 22, where the command is given for you to sacrifice your son, and you can recognize that and go, oh, I see. This is someone who has decided that's a bad idea.
No more child sacrifice, please.
And, let's not do that. But we can do this instead, right? See, that's how you can do that.
Yep.
So,
but you can't just naively believe that any time that Scripture touches on a topic that another part of Scripture has touched on, therefore they are in harmony, because they're often not.
Yeah. No. Okay.
Anyway, Ram is the direct ancestor of David back to Judah. What does this matter?
Well, I don't
know. There were
at
least 4 generations from Ram to Job's friend Elihu. Whatever. There were 7 generations between Ram and David, who was a second. Oh, so he's just trying to historicize Ram in the context of various other genealogies because they're the same name. Hey, Bodhi, guess what? Even if we take all of this as historical, sometimes people have the same name as other people, and that's just a thing that happens. Like, for instance, did you know there's more than one Joshua in the Bible? One of them is frickin' Jesus.
Yep.
So, Job 1 through 8 and whatever also indicate that Job was upright, blameless, and shunned evil and feared God. And with this came the declaration that there was none on earth like him. If he lived at the time of Abraham, was Abraham not these things? I don't know, Bodhi, or maybe it's just a hyperbolic description.
Damn it.
Like, remember that time that, according to you, Moses wrote that Moses was the humblest man on all the earth? Yeah, maybe it's like that. I don't know.
Or maybe, just maybe, whoever wrote this book had no idea there was an Abraham, because maybe
didn't care.
Or didn't care, or it's not the fucking point.
Yeah.
Right?
was just not actually trying to put it at a particular time in history, and so wasn't worried about any of these figures. Nor the godly priest Melchizedek, or later with Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, or Moses. Okay, Bodhi. However, during the time of Judges, there were often times when there was no standout Israelites. How do you know that, Bodhi? Even if we accept the historicity of the Judges, do you think everyone was mentioned in Judges? Like, the only way for that to make sense is if we accept the historicity of Judges and then also say that Judges recorded every Israelite who ever did anything noteworthy, ever, during that time. That's pretty far-fetched on more than one level. I'm taking a drink. That was an insanely stupid argument.
Yes. What's number 10?
Job mentions judges who would counter the evils in the land. Even Job was honored with the position to judge his 3 friends in prayer in continuous with other judge-like... Oh my god.
Oh my fucking god, Bodhi.
Bodhi, the fact that someone makes a judgment call anywhere in the Bible is not evidence that it was a time of judges. That's...
There was the time of judges.
For fuck's sake.
Oh. Romans. We're moving on to the New fucking Testament here now, Dapper.
Hey, Bodhi, remember that time that we said that Bodhi sometimes will argue for the correct thing in the worst imaginable way?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Yes, here we go. This is what's happening.
Yep.
Yes.
Romans 2:28 through whatever. The Jews were committed to the oracles of God, yet Job is preserved in written accounts, and so it makes more sense that it was committed to the Jews who could not be said to exist until Abraham's descendants were on the scene.
Oh, if he only knew. If he only had an inkling.
It is possible that it is completely past prophetic by the Holy Spirit. Even so, the book of Job doesn't give such clues. Okay. This is gonna break me. I'm gonna go on Chesh's stream later, and I'm just gonna not be able to function anymore. Job 3:14 mentions kings and counselors who built for themselves places that were in ruins in Job's day. Okay, having ruins lends a date a little farther... Oh, okay, I see what he's doing here. A little farther away from Babel as opposed to soon after it. Nations need to migrate and attain populations to build such construction projects. They need to lay it in wait for some time to destroy them. Even the Tower of Babel is considered ruin, but this was in Nebuchadnezzar's day at captivity. Okay, here's... Do I care enough to actually talk about this?
I think we should just move on.
Okay, yeah.
Seriously. The timing of the book of Job. Archbishop James Ussher places Job at the end of Genesis around the time of the death of Joseph at 1635 BC. Ussher points out that most of the Talmudists and Hebrews believe that Job lived... Are those... There's Talmudists and there's Hebrews. I feel like... I don't know what that... Okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's a category that isn't two distinct categories, but...
Right,
more like one category is within the other one.
It sounds like he feels like those are like the Talmudists were like a sect. So they believed that Job lived at this time and quoted ancient scholar Severus Sulpicius to back up this date. This would be a unique window of time between the righteous and upright Joseph and the righteous and upright Moses, so this is a possibility, right? Because, everybody was, there's only certain times when there's, okay.
We have a super chat. Matt the Navigator for $4.99 says, so every evangelical church is in temporal flux with the time of Judges.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. This would have been prior to the Israelites' miraculous exit from Egypt with Moses a matter of years later. By the time the Israelites were to enter into the land, the Edomites had already been given a certain amount of the land as their possession and were already settled in the land. Esau, was a descendant of Abraham, and many of Abraham's descendants took over much of the Middle East and North Africa. And his language still remains in many places to... Oh my fucking... What? No, it doesn't. The Lord also gave the land for Moab and Ammon, the descendants of Lot, Deuteronomy 2:4-12, to whom was given his pick of Abraham's land by Abraham himself. Is that a sentence? I don't know that that's a sentence.
I think it's a sentence. To whom was given the pick of Abraham's land by Abraham himself. Yeah, that's the whole sentence.
Yeah, okay. All right. So Edom and others of Abraham's and Lot's progeny were in the land and likely settled around or even well before the death of Joseph. So Usher's date would be a possibility, considering that Moses was actually classed as the first judge. God.
Was he? Is that a thing?
No, I actually don't know. I'm interested now to see if
I've never
Moses
heard that.
is actually ever identified as a judge,
Yeah.
as a chauffeur. This would be placing the timing near the time of the birth of the first judge. Of course, for Job to have contact with the Naamathite, and if this was really someone of the tribe of Benjamin, or possibly Naamah, also after Abraham, the contact with the family of Ram, perhaps this date, should be brought a little closer. It is possible, closer to what? It is possible then that this would be referential to the time frame of immediately pre-Moses or the time of the judges after Moses. One argument that has been brought up that goes against the post-Moses time frame is the lack of mention of the law of Mosaic or Mosaic system. However, there is no reason to assume cultures outside of Israel would have extensive knowledge of the law and the Israelite system, and even if Job and his friends did, there may be little reason to quote it. The book of Esther during the captivity doesn't mention the law or the Mosaic system either. Are we to assume it was written pre-Moses? Not at all.
Okay.
Okay.
Jester for $5.
Oh my God!
Jester for
Says
$5.
conclusion.
I know. But for $5.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
I
so
made a
excited.
judgment call to go to work today. Therefore, it is the time of judges now. Welcome to ancient Israel, everyone. Sorry about medicine. Oh,
Excellent.
you know what?
Okay.
From now on, any time I ever have to make a decision between things, I'm going to remember that I am one of the judges from the Bible. In fact, as it turns out. Teary words of a king, 7 times purified Rano, who's been a member for 23 months, almost twice around the sun, who's at the tetrapod level, says, "Is this normal Job or Chinese Job? AIG's a bag of dicks." This is normal Job.
Neither no, actually I would say this is neither normal Job nor Chinese Job. This is Edomite Job.
Oh, yes.
Right.
All
this
right.
is Edomite Job.
With our third conclusion of this book. Here we
Is
go.
this it? Is this really it?
I don't know.
This is it?
I don't know. We're going to find out. Trying to discover the date of the Book of Job has many elements to it. Yeah, almost like there's no one particular date that you can find because all of the clues don't actually lead you to a conclusion because they were never supposed to. Though the Bible doesn't give a clear date, there are some clues, and there may be more. But at this time, it may be safe to leave open a few options. Yeah, Bodhi, is it? But not before or in the time of Abraham, although this author had typically been in the camp for an older date of Job, there are biblical reasons to reconsider with good textual reasons that it was somewhere just before Moses to somewhere in the time of Judges. Let God be true, with one too many periods in the ellipsis.
Dot.
Yeah,
Is that it? Is that it? Or are we done?
I'm not sure, but
Is it
Lieutenant
over?
Math the Navigator for $4.99 says, "This book has as many endings as The Return of the King." It's true.
Yes.
Oh, it's so true. Oh, goodness. All right, this is commercials.
Yes.
Commercials. Blank pages.
There is
Done.
a lot. Oh,
That's it. We did it.
we did it. We did it, everyone. We did it.
Okay.
It's over.
This might
Oh
be
my
the worst
God.
book I've ever read. No. Okay, scratch that. No. I've read.
You read God Is?
I've not actually read God Is. I've seen excerpts of it, but
Okay.
I did actually read at least one of the Donnie Badinsky, Matt Nyler quote unquote books, and they're worse than this. Have you ever encountered those, Kip?
Sorry, I was distracted again.
How
Which?
dare you? The books,
I'm
the
sorry.
quote unquote like made to order books that you can get from Amazon by Standing for Truth, Donnie Badinsky, and Matt Nyler.
No.
So they created some Google Docs documents, I guess, whatever,
Yes.
in which they put
Mhm.
their various thoughts about various topics about evolution and creation and science and whatnot, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things you have to remember, so Raw Matt is the guy who gave us the phrase
I'm.
pre-Yiddish.
He's the ordained Essene.
Yes, he's the ordained to see. He's also
Yes.
someone who wrote a blog post on his website about nutrition and herbalism, about Morganucodon, a or no, it was probanic death. Sorry, a cynodont related to mammals, whatever. Trying to tell how it wasn't actually a missing link between non-mammals and mammals, right? And one of the things he said was it didn't even have molars. Well, the image above the paragraph in which it said it didn't have molars was in
Didn't
fact a
have
picture
molars.
of the molars of probanic natus. So
Yeah.
that's the level of
Uh,
intellect we're working with here.
Are
They
you
made
familiar,
these. Well, let me finish.
Dapper Dinosaur?
Let me
Okay,
finish.
sorry.
So they put
Okay.
these documents out there. It seemed like they were mostly for internal reference, right? And they had like hyperlink notes as to where their sources were and whatnot. But when they decided to turn these into hard copy books, all they did was just upload the Google document to Amazon, which resulted in Amazon printing out books in which sources were given as truncated blue text with underline, because it was just taking the formatting of the now truncated hyperlink and printing it out. So you had a book where the sources were hyperlinks you couldn't follow because they were truncated. And when I pointed this out to
Man.
Donnie, his response to me telling him, "Hey, man, there's a formatting problem with your book. Your sources don't, they fundamentally don't work. This isn't proper." His response to that was, "You just have to hit them harder." Okay, sure. Like, I wasn't telling you a joke, Donnie. I was trying to help, but okay.
All right.
Then we have one
Awesome.
super chat, and then we're going to go back to you. DM sponsored by Joshua
Right.
Geese Wing for $5 says, "Now that that's over, better or worse than Ken's dissertation?" I think this is worse. Actually,
I'll say better. Oh wow. See, I was gonna say better, but
okay. We can argue about it.
yeah, we can. Are you familiar with Praise I Am,
Yes,
Dapper Dinosaur?
I am.
Did you know that he has written a book
I did not know that.
and published a second edition
Oh,
of that book? Yes. In fact, I just let me find. If I don't recommend you read his book, but I do 100% recommend that you read the review of that book that was published by my good friend Dr. Joshua Bowen.
Before we get to that, Kip Long Halstead of Nantucket for $4.99 says, "After a hard journey, Dapper, Kip, and Vish, not present, learned that the answers were not, in fact, in Genesis." Correct.
Correct.
Or in Job, for that matter.
Very true. It just dawned on me that I blocked Praise I Am's actual name from my. Well, maybe he published it under Praise I Am. That would be great. No. Oh, yes, he did. The name of Praise I Am's book is Biblical Slavery.
Oh no.
Comprehensively debunked. So,
Oh my god.
yes.
I'm
And
not ready
I will
for
just
this.
no. And don't read it.
I'm not
people.
going to.
Don't read this book. But what everyone should do, I definitely highly recommend this because it's fucking hilarious. You should absolutely go and read the review of Biblical Slavery, Comprehensively Debunked,
Where
written
could one
by
find this?
Dr. Joshua Bowen. I believe you should be able to find a link to it at digitalhammurabi.com.
Could you get that link and
believe
forward
so.
it to me so I can add it to the description of this for later?
Yeah, I probably can.
That's not
even
something
just
you have to do
text-
it now.
I could even just text Dr.
No, Kip, you had said
Josh.
that there were things that you wanted
But-
to talk about when we finished, and I think that is
Oh.
now.
That is now. So I have two things.
Okay.
Um,
What's the second one?
The second one is that 1 week from tomorrow, on the 8th of June, I will be celebrating 20,000 subscribers on my channel. And I'm very excited
Nice.
about it. So Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 o'clock Eastern. I'm having a party, and there is a lot of people coming. You're coming, right,
Yeah,
Dapper Dinosaur?
as far as I know, yeah.
Dapper's going to be there. Vish is going to be there. So long as she doesn't have a migraine. Dr. Josh and his lovely wife Megan will be there. Lots and lots of people. I don't want to give you the rundown in the entire list, but there's going to be a whole bunch of my friends and in this space who are going to be there, and it's going to be a ton of fun. So please block it off and come and hang out and let's have a party. So yes, that's next weekend, the 8th at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. So that's the second thing. The first thing, can I tell the first thing now?
Yes.
The first thing is that Budget Scripture Saturday is tonight. And that is at 11 o'clock Eastern p.m. and 8 o'clock Pacific. And you can watch me get drunk and hear me say the F word unabated.
Nice.
In tonight's stream. And I will be joined by my co-hosts, Nitty and Dr. Tapioca Weasel.
Nice.
And we will be watching a video that Maya Atkinson has selected.
Ooh, that might not be nice.
for-
I know that the kinds of things she selects, they can be rough.
This is the premise of the show. The Queen of the Goddesses selects videos and makes us watch them.
Cruel goddess.
She is a cruel goddess, but some people like it. So that's,
I mean, I do.
That's what I listen. I made a thumbnail and everything.
You did.
So
I liked
it's cool. So I haven't posted the link yet, but it's coming here momentarily. I expect y'all to be out tonight. It's going to be a good time.
All right.
And I think that's it.
All right. So.
Oh wait, can I say one more thing? One more thing, because this is exciting and it's down the road. But shut up. I received an invitation this last week from Bart Ehrman's Biblical Studies Academy. If you're members of Bart Ehrman's Biblical Studies Academy, I will be doing an AMA on the 22nd of July. That's it.
Awesome. All right. So what is coming up for me? So later on today, I am going to be over on Chesh's channel doing some debate pub with Landon Knoll and
You'll be
Manya.
finished before I stream.
Probably, unless we go way longer, which I don't know if I'll survive if we do that. Then on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm remembering. Sorry. We're doing the next Kent with Bent. I believe it should be Dumb 64 because I forgot about Doom 64 before, and it should have gone Dumb 1, Dumb 2, Dumb 64, then Dumb 3, because of course Nintendo decided to put out a console with the number 64 in it, meaning that everyone who published a game there had to put the word 64 somewhere in the name of their game. Thanks, Nintendo. Really good console, but God, was that a terrible name. So that will be then, which by the way, we are actually pretty close to Bent getting free pizza, but we're not there, so I don't think we're gonna do it. Naram DePutz, who's been a member for 20 months and is at the Tetrapod level, says it is finished. Yes, just like what
it
Jesus
certainly
said.
is. Yes, there's a Petra song called that too.
Nice. So then on Thursday, I am premiering Plato Says Transitional Fossils Are Fake, which is a continuation of the video from last week talking about Dr. Brian Thomas of the Institute for Creation Research. And in this video, I'm going to dive into my idea for how to understand the framework that creationists use when talking about biology. And it is that it is a fundamentally Neoplatonic framework. So you are going to see me dive into the connections between young Earth creationism and Neoplatonism. And I think you might be surprised as to how closely connected those two sets of ideologies are. And I think that once you hear my explanation as to why it is that young Earth creationists have a fundamentally Neoplatonic view of biology, you will then really see that popping up in a lot of creationist stuff. Kip, what's up?
Oh my god, you guys.
Mhm.
Stardust Lilith just sent me a picture of Dr. Kip.
Aww,
Aww.
that's adorable.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Stardust Lilith.
So yeah, check that out if you are interested in the actual like philosophical underpinnings of young Earth creationism. Something the young Earth creationists will not talk about. They do not want you to let you know just how closely connected they are to Neoplatonism. And to be fair, a lot of Neoplatonic thought seeps into especially Western Christian theology. So this isn't exactly unexpected, right? Augustine was a big Neoplatonist in terms of his philosophy about a lot of things. So like, it's a big thing. Anyway, then on Friday, this is not currently confirmed. I still need to get in touch with the other players. So on Friday, it looks like Craig won't be able to make it for the for Star Trek. But since he was in the most recent scene that we did, and this is going to have to be a part 2 to that episode, I'm not sure if we're going to just swap him and Jordan out so that Jordan can come in. And I'd probably excuse it with like, oh, you know, Craig's character had a tree fall on him or something, and now he has to go back to the ship for medical treatment, like whatever. Something like that. Or if we're just going to not play that week and then have everyone there the next week. So I still have to figure that out. But if we do play, it will be on Friday. It'll be Entropy's Demise Part 2. That'll be at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, or 2 a.m. if you're off in Scotland like Craig is. Then on Saturday, we're going to be doing another Dapper Reacts, but I have no clue what's going to be going on. And I don't even know if Kip is going to want to join because there's a fair chance it won't have anything to do with the text of the Bible.
We shall see.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on.
I might, I might go back and spend some time with the blasphemers next weekend. Even though I know they go a little bit earlier than you, but we'll see.
Well, hey, I don't know what's happening that day. You guys. Also, I want to say I do believe we actually broke the record for concurrent viewers on my channel on this live stream.
Is that right?
We had a fair bit over 140 today, which for me I believe is a record. So thank you very much, everybody.
Wow. Congratulations. Yeah. Very nice.
So now I do want to say, as far as things that are coming up not soon, on the 14th, that is in fact my birthday. It is in fact a Saturday, and rather than just doing a normal Dapper Reacts, we're going to be doing a nice long stream, probably about 6 hours, where people can jump in and drop out as they want. It'll probably be hosted on like a StreamYard page, and yes, Kip, you'll be getting a link. So yeah, I don't know exactly what we're going to cover. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. I do remember last time we did a thing where instead of me being in control of the pause button, I put someone else, and then I tried to play, I think it was like Dwarf Fortress or something, continuously without pausing while also debunking creationism, and that was a really hard to do. It was not easy. So maybe I'll do something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. I want to say thank you guys so much. I'm sure Bent will be disappointed that he's going to starve again today. But you know what? That's okay. We don't need to feed Bent. Bent can become a breatharian or start like stargazing or something, right? Like that'll be how he gets his. He could be nourished by the pranic energy of the universe. All right. Well,
hey,
everybody. Oh,
Dapper.
Yes.
Oh, can I take 100% of the credit for the 140 live viewers on your stream today? This is how this works, right? We did establish this.
I'll tell you what. I will let you take 53.6% of the credit.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, everybody. I hope you all stay safe out there. We are probably I'm not going to do Power Rangers today. I'm instead just going to get up, stretch, walk around, and wait for Chesh's thing to come in. And so if you want to see more of me, go head over to Debate Hub. That's one of Chesh's channels. It is the one that looks like it has the logo from the channel, or sorry, from the website that you're definitely thinking of when I say Debate Hub.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which, by the way, I made that logo. I'm very proud of it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Way to go.
It was actually a joke. I actually also came up with that name. And Chesh was like, I don't know what to name my channel. And as a joke, I came up with the name and made a logo for Debate Hub. And she was like, no, I'm doing it. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's my fault that Debate Hub is the name of that channel. And that's the logo. So, all right. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you all stay safe out there. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And I hope to see all of you in just a few hours over on Chesh's channel. And if not, then definitely on Tuesday. Bye.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Van Tovend, Furgevara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Max Cherry, North Texas Fossils, John Ackerman, Elleron Teller, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostek von Mennen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Sphincter of Doom, and Volus. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.